You're on 12. Today was the second day of Sivan. Hashem, and Moshe tells the Jewish people, in the name of Hashem, that you will be a nation of priests, a holy nation, the entire nation. And tonight, tomorrow, they were told to, given boundaries, not to come close to the mountain, different degrees. The Jewish people at one boundary, the elders at another boundary, the Kohanim at another boundary, Aaron and the sons, and then you had and then Yeshua went to the foot of the mountain, and Moshe went up the mountain. And then on the fourth day, they were told to separate from their wives, and so they should be pure. And the third day, so the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth day, that's when they received the Torah. So every day something happened. The Chodesh, they arrived at Mount Sinai because they were tired, they traveled, they rested. Moshe didn't tell them anything, but they arrived. And the Jewish people were unified, they were eager, they were excited, they were all on the same page, they were all together, unified. And then the next day, they were given this very important statements about the Jewish people. You'll be a nation of priests and kings, royalty, Mamlechas Kohanim v'Gei Kodesh, a holy nation. And then they were given the commandments to stay boundaries. The mountain became holy for that moment. Hashem gave us the Torah. And then you had the separating, and then the Jewish people responded, we're going to receive the Torah, we're going to nasa, we will do, and then we will listen. And the day before the giving of the Torah, they also offered sacrifices. And the daily sacrifice started then. Our daily sacrifice begins in the temple. Every day there was a daily sacrifice, the opening of the sacrifices, which started at dawn, and then it ended in the afternoon, the final sacrifice. The Torah says this is a continuation of the sacrifice that was given at Sinai, that was done at Sinai before the Torah was given, the day before the Torah was given. So the day before is already a preparation that reflects and contains the energy of the day. So every day something exciting happened as we're building up to the giving of the Torah. It's all part of the preparation. Of course, we're finishing the counting of the Omer. The day before the Omer is the last day we count the Omer. The 49th day, we complete the 7 weeks, 49 days, 7 times 7. So every day we're preparing, we're building up the excitement, we're building up the anticipation and the excitement for the giving of the Torah. And one of the reasons we count the Omer is because, just like the Jewish people, to commemorate the Jewish people, when they left Egypt, Moshe told them, you're going to leave Egypt to serve Hashem on the mountain. So they knew they're going to receive the Torah, so they couldn't wait. They were so eager, they were so excited that every day they were counting down. So we also we're commemorating the giving of the Torah. So it's very hard to understand, it's very difficult to explain. It says when Hashem came to give the Torah, he found the Jewish people all asleep. It's an ancient tradition. When the rabbi speaks, the congregation sleeps. Even when Hashem spoke, the ultimate sermon, even before he began, they already all fell asleep. They were all asleep. Hashem, it was a very sweet sleep. No fly bothered them, nothing bothered them. It was a very, very serene and very peaceful sleep. And Hashem had to wake them up. And to fix that, it's brought down the Zohar, mentioned the code of Jewish law, that the custom is we're up all night on Shavuot. To fix that mistake that the Jewish people went to sleep. So it's very difficult to understand. I mean, they were counting down. They were so eager and anticipating and excited to receive the Torah. Every day was momentous. They arrived at Sinai. They camped out at Sinai. They were all unified, which never happened before in Jewish history. The Jewish people were all unified. One heart, they were all together. And then Moshe prepares them and tells them unbelievable things about the entire nation, every Jew. You're a royalty and you're priests and how special the Jewish people are, and then you're going to be Segula, you're going to be special. And then the mitzvah that we're given, the commandments regarding Mount Sinai, the boundaries that they had to mark and keep, and the separation from their wives. I mean, they're so preparing, and the night before you fall asleep, you're going on a trip of a lifetime, taking a cruise around the world, an experience of a lifetime. Even if you wanted to sleep, you couldn't sleep. Your adrenaline, you're so excited, you're so eager. Well, how is it possible? What was going on? And the Medrash says that it was a very sweet sleep. Hashem made sure they should sleep well, without any disturbance. It was almost miraculous. No fly, no one hurt them. Everyone made sure that they should have a very deep sleep. So obviously it was a very good thing. It was a very positive thing. It was a very holy sleep. And that's why they went to sleep. Because the Jewish people intentionally went to sleep. They thought the night before the giving of the Torah, this is the best preparation of the Torah. They should go to sleep. Because what happens when you sleep? Well, it depends what kind of day you had. The night follows the day. It depends what kind of day you had. If you had a content-filled day, a meaningful day, a deep day, an inspiring day, a wholesome, uplifting day, filled with good deeds and filled with positive speech and good thoughts, positive thought, then your sleep is filled with, it could be a very profound experience. Some of the greatest rabbis received answers to questions that puzzled them in the Torah. They couldn't understand. And their biggest breakthroughs happened when they were asleep. When your ego mind, your conscious mind is asleep, then you're free, and you can reach like a meditative state. Dreams could be very profound, very deep. They touch your subconscious, they access your subconscious. When you're freed from the straitjacket of the logical, rational mind, and suddenly you can absorb, you can have insights, breakthroughs. You tap in to deeper levels of meditation, of awareness, integration. So sleep actually could bring, it's like being going into a mystical trance. So the Jewish people intentionally went to sleep. They thought this is the best way to prepare for the giving of the Torah, going to sleep. And it had the effect that the world around them let them sleep. Hashem made miraculously, no fly, no mosquito, nothing bothered them. They were in a deep trance, a deep meditative, spiritual meditative state. They were elevated. It was a deep, profound, mystical experience. The question is, so what's wrong? Maybe that should be the custom. Make sure that the night before Shavuot, we should all go into a deep sleep to prepare for the giving of the Torah. And yet, it's Hashem found them all asleep, and Hashem was actually upset. And until today, 3,333 years later, we're still fixing it, we're still mending, we're making up for it by staying awake all night. We're going to have all-night learning at Chabad after the dinner. Hopefully you'll join us for the dinner, but after the dinner, we're going to have all-night learning from 11:30 till 3:45, till dawn. And Jews all over the world are going to be up, learning. Tikkun Leil Shavuot. So the question is why? Why do we have to make up? What's the problem? The answer is because this goes contrary to the whole theme of the giving of the Torah. When you prepare for something, the preparation has to reflect the thing that you're preparing for. The whole theme of the giving of the Torah, the whole breakthrough of the giving of the Torah was that heaven came down to earth. It was merging heaven and earth. And earth going up to heaven, Moshe going up to the heaven, and the heavens coming down to earth, bringing heaven and earth together. And here the entire Jewish people left their body, so to speak, their consciousness, and went into a deep spiritual, mystical trance, deeper levels of consciousness, purely mystical, spiritual experience. How is that? How could that be a preparation for the giving of the Torah, which is the exact opposite? It's all about bringing filling, not emptying your mind, emptying your consciousness, but filling your consciousness, filling your mind, filling your thoughts, filling your speech, filling your actions, your daily conduct, your daily life, your conscious life, filling your life with Torah and with mitzvahs. So when contrary to the whole theme of the giving of the Torah, that's why, as great as it was, and it was great, and it was mystical, and it was sweet, and it was profound and deep, and uplifting, inspiring, all of the above, it's something we have to fix, we have to mend, we have to correct. That's not the purpose of the giving of the Torah. The whole purpose of the giving of the Torah is that we should receive the Torah in a conscious state and integrate the Torah and internalize the Torah and bring heaven down to earth, bring godliness, integrate into our daily lives, into our thoughts, into our speech, into our action. And that's why we mend, we fix it by being up all night. And this also explains we find a miracle. We find a miracle that happened. It says when Hashem gave the Torah, a miracle happened that they heard Hashem's voice all over the world, and there was no echo. Usually when there's a sound, there's an echo. It bounces off. Here, there was no echo. So two questions. Firstly, Hashem doesn't perform miracles just for the sake of performing miracles. Hashem can do anything. Hashem doesn't make a miracle for no reason. Hashem created the world, the natural world, for a reason, for a purpose. So unless he has to, he doesn't like to do miracles if there's no reason. So what was the point of this miracle? Just to make a miracle that naturally is a sound wave, should bounce off, there should be an echo. Miraculously, Hashem made it, when Hashem spoke at Mount Sinai, there was no echo. And the second question is, why is it relevant to us? The Torah is not a storybook. It's not a history book. What's the relevance to us personally in our personal lives? But this is the whole idea. Where does an echo come from? An echo comes from when the voice bounces off. In other words, the voice cannot be absorbed. That's why acoustics, when they make the whole science of acoustics is they build it with material that should absorb the sound waves, so it doesn't echo and it doesn't bounce off. But naturally, there's certain material that doesn't absorb the sound waves, and therefore it echoes, it bounces off the material, and therefore you hear an echo. That's the meaning of this miracle. It's not just a miracle. This was the whole theme of the giving of the Torah. That the voice of the Torah, the voice of Hashem, penetrated through everything in this material world. There was no resistance. Echo comes when there's a resistance. When the material resists the sound waves, it bounces off and therefore creates an echo. But here, there was no resistance. The whole world, everything in this world, wasn't a pocket in the world, it wasn't a corner in the world that didn't absorb and receive the Torah. Because the Torah coincides with the world. The Torah and the world there's no part of the world that's in contradiction to the Torah. The whole world could have received and could absorb the Torah. And that's why there's no echo. Because the whole purpose of the Torah was given here below, that every portion of this world, every portion of life could reflect and receive the Torah. And then we find also a very interesting thing in the Talmud. We find there's an argument in the Talmud, in Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua, what's the proper way to celebrate a Jewish holiday? Pesach, Sukkot. So one opinion is, Rabbi Lezer holds, either you can choose, you have a choice, you have an option. Either you can choose to dedicate the whole day to Hashem, spend the whole holiday praying, studying Torah. There's no mitzvah to eat. You can spend the whole day, choose to spend the whole day to commune with Hashem. Or you can spend the day eating and feasting and drinking. And that's how you celebrate the holiday. It's up to you. Because it says, one verse says that it's a holiday to you, another verse says it's a holiday to Hashem. So in other words, the Torah is giving us the option, choice one, choice A, choice B. Aleph or Beis, whatever you choose, whatever you decide, whatever you prefer. One holiday you can celebrate this day, another holiday this way, another holiday you can celebrate a different way. Rabbi Yeshua says no. It's not. The Torah says it's a holiday to you, Chag Lachem, and other verse says it's a holiday to Hashem. How do you reconcile? It's a contradiction, and the answer is you have to split it. You have to include both. You have to celebrate for Hashem. You have to dedicate a portion of the day. You have to dedicate to prayer and to commune with Hashem. That's why in the holiday the prayers are longer than the weekday. We spend more time celebrating Hashem and davening, learning. And on the other hand, you also have to celebrate Lachem. You have to celebrate that it should be to you. You have to celebrate physically. You have to rejoice. You have to feast. The holiday meal has to be even nicer than the Shabbos meal. It has to be something special. A holiday is special. It happens 3 times a year. It has to be special. The food, the clothing that you wear, the food that you wear, it has to be even more special than a regular Shabbos. You have to celebrate. Then the Talmud concludes, when it comes to the holiday of Shavuot, there is no argument. Everyone agrees, everyone admits, and everyone agrees. Even Rabbi Lezer holds the Bina Nami Lechem. But you also have to eat and feast. You have to eat those blintzes. You have to eat that cheesecake, and you have to have the meal. You have to celebrate, physically celebrate, which is astonishing if you think about it. It makes no sense. On the contrary, if there's one holiday with the opinion of Rabbi Lezer, whose hold you celebrate a holiday by learning, by praying and learning all day, if there's one holiday where this opinion makes the most sense, is the holiday of Shavuot, the giving of the Torah. What better way to celebrate the giving of the Torah than sitting and learning all day? Who cares about eating? Why eat? Spend the whole day delving and diving into the sea of Talmud, to the Torah, learning Hashem's Torah, receiving joy from learning Hashem's Torah, receiving the Torah. On the contrary, the other holidays, it makes more sense that you have to celebrate it by eating and feasting, because the holidays commemorate a physical event, something that happened physically. After all, the Exodus from Egypt on Pesach was also liberated us, freed us. So it makes sense that you should also celebrate it and express it in a physical way. We were slaves and we were freed until they saw our former taskmasters dead, washed up. We felt free for the first time in generations. So it makes sense that you should celebrate it in a physical way. It's not enough to celebrate it spiritually by praying and learning all day. You also have to eat and celebrate. Sukkot, it also commemorates the Exodus from Egypt. Hashem gave us shelter. So again, we're commemorating Hashem gave us shelter. He made our journey comfortable. We had shelter. We had the clouds of glory that gave us shade, and so it's to commemorate the physical, all the physical things that the cloud of glory did for us, and the honor and dignity Hashem showed us. So these are all things that make sense that we should celebrate it in the physical way. And nevertheless, Rabbi Lezer says you don't have to eat. You can celebrate, dedicate the whole day to spirituality, learning and davening. When it comes to the holiday of Shavuot, which is a purely spiritual holiday, what happened in Shavuot? Hashem gave us the Torah. It was nothing physical. It was a godly experience. It was a spiritual experience. And yet this is the holiday where the Torah says, the Talmud says, everyone holds, unanimously, everyone agrees that you have to physically express the joy of the holiday by physically eating and drinking. And by the way, it was a big problem what to eat. It wasn't simple. Because when they received the Torah, suddenly all their pots and pans were not kosher anymore. Because everything they cooked before, they did it, they weren't really Jewish. They became a people at Mount Sinai. That's when Hashem chose us as his people. And that's when all the laws were applicable. Yes, voluntarily they may have kept kosher, but it didn't have the biblical force of being kosher. It's only after the Torah was given that now suddenly they had the laws and the status of eating kosher. So everything they cooked before, they did before, was not kosher. So they couldn't use their pots and pans to cook any meat or any chicken or any meat. So they couldn't eat any fleishiks. All they can eat were milchik. milk. And that's why the custom is, it's the only holiday, the custom is on Shavuot, is the first day we eat milk. And then you wait an hour and you can have some flesh, you can have some meat. Because they had a problem what to eat. But essentially, Shavuot was a spiritual experience, a godly experience. And yet this is the holiday that the Torah says everyone holds unanimously that we must celebrate physically. And the answer is because this is the whole theme of the holiday. The whole theme of the holiday is that heaven coming down to earth. The Torah was given to human beings. The angels complain, why are you giving the Torah to human beings? The Torah belongs in heaven, in the heaven of heavens. Why are you giving it to human beings here on earth? And that's the whole revolution. That's the whole breakthrough of the giving of the Torah, that the Torah came down to earth. The mitzvot were given physical to physical human beings, bodies. And you have to physically do the mitzvah, not the meditation and the intent and the emotion and the spirituality and the religiosity and the intensity. It's the physical, it's the deed. Heaven comes down to earth. So therefore, the way to celebrate the holiday is through physically celebrating and eating. And that's what happened. After the giving of the Torah, this great experience. What do you think the first question was? The first question. What's for Kiddush? What are we going to eat? There was a problem. They couldn't eat. They had to throw out all their vessels, kosher their vessels. So they had to eat milk. Because that's the whole point of the giving of the Torah, to integrate heaven and earth. And that's also reflected in Jewish law. Jewish law states, if a person has a very disturbing dream, you wake up and you just felt that this dream was a bad omen, it was something ominous was going to happen. You just feel it. It was like, in dreams, you have an inkling of the future, and you just had a horrible dream that just shook you up. And what's the answer? So you fast. You wake up and you fast. And you hope with your fast, you're going to avert the terrible decree. Whatever you dreamt about will not happen. And you have the power, before it happens, you have the power to still avert it, to reinterpret the dream, to avert the terrible decree, and you fast. And the halacha states, even though you're not allowed to fast on Shabbat, Shabbat is a day of pleasure, but if you have a disturbing dream, you're allowed to fast. Tainus cholum, you're allowed to fast, pushes off Shabbos, because you're so disturbed that eating won't give you pleasure. This gives you pleasure. You can do something to alleviate this terrible, terrible dream, to change this terrible thing that's destined to happen to you. And you have to make up for it. It's a sin. You're not allowed to eat on Shabbos. So you have to fast another day during the week time to make up, to atone for the fact that you fasted on Shabbat. But you're allowed to fast on Shabbat, on a holiday. It overrides the mitzvah of eating on that day. What's the one exception? The one exception is the holiday of Shavuot. On the holiday of Shavuot, you don't have to fast. You're not allowed to fast. You must celebrate. You must eat. You must drink. You must be fasted. You have to physically express the joy of the giving of the Torah, of receiving this gift. So that's the whole point of the giving. That's the breakthrough of Shavuot. That's the whole revolution of Shavuot. That we have to learn to integrate body and soul, heaven and earth, spiritual and material, faith and logic, right and left, east and west. We have to learn to integrate and to unify and to internalize the Torah, fill our consciousness, fill our minds, fill our hearts, fill our thoughts, speech, and action with Torah and mitzvah by living a Jewish life. That's the revolution. That's the breakthrough of the Torah. That's what we're celebrating. That's why we're up all night. We make a point of being conscious. And while we're conscious to study Torah all night, to fill our consciousness, fill our thoughts with Hashem, with His Torah. In other words, it's not enough to go off on a mountaintop and meditate and play dead for 9 hours a day and go to a different dimension and escape your ego and escape your ego consciousness and go to heaven and go to a deep mystical trance, which is a wonderful, wonderful, sweet experience. But the challenge of Torah and the goal of Torah is to bring all of that down into reality, into practical. To fully integrate every day of your life, you should be connected in your daily life, in your mundane life, as we go about our daily life on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's a beautiful story, Alter Rebbe and his chaver, his colleague, the only child of Rabbi Dov Ber, the Maggid of Mezrich, his teacher, his Rebbe, who called father. He used to refer to the Baal Shem Tov as Yartzeit of Shmuas as Zayda, grandfather. The children of the Alter Rebbe would refer to the Baal Shem Tov as Elta Zayda, our great-grandfather. As he told Rabbi Baruch, you're a physical grandchild, but I'm a spiritual grandchild. Alter Rebbe didn't veer from the Baal Shem Tov even like a hair, one iota. He was totally devoted and connected every level. So Alter Rebbe became a chassid. When he came to Rabbi Dov Ber, he set him up to learn with his son, his only son. Alter Rebbe taught Rabbi Avram the angel, who's called Avram the angel, he's so mystical and spiritual. He taught him the revealed part of the Torah, and Rabbi Avram the angel taught Alter Rebbe the Kabbalah. And once they had a very deep mystical experience together. Like they made a circle, they entered into the circle, and together they went into a deep meditative trance, and they had a very deep mystical experience. Alter Rebbe realized that they're both about to expire. Their mystical experience was so deep and so profound and so, they reached a level of ecstasy that literally their souls were about to fly the coop, was about to escape the body and return to Hashem, return to heaven, return to its maker. Alter Rebbe immediately jumped out of the circle. He grabbed the bagel. I don't know if he smeared it with something, grabbed the bagel. He bit into the bagel and gave it to Rabbi Avram the Malach to eat. And he saved their lives by doing something physical, keeping them grounded in this world, remembering that it's all about being in this world and staying connected and bringing that deep mystical experience and bringing it and integrating it and internalizing and bringing it into this world. And that's the whole revolution. That's the whole breakthrough of the giving of the Torah. Integrate the body and the soul, heaven and earth. And that's the holiday. That's what Hashem gives us the Torah, one day of the year. And this year is 3,333 years. 3, 3, 3, 3. 3 is strong, powerful. There's never been a giving of the Torah like we're going to experience this year. On an even higher level. And the first time, every year, it not only repeats, but every year it happens again, much more intensely, much more powerful. The Torah is more powerful than ever. The integration of heaven and earth now is more powerful than ever. The merging of heaven and earth now, this year, is more powerful than ever. And Hashem expects of us and empowers us that we should act Jewish, speak Jewish, think Jewish, 24/7. Our whole lives should be transformed and become a Torah life. The whole world around us should be transformed, should become a Torah world. This is the world of redemption, the world of Mashiach. When the world is transformed, it becomes a Torah world. And may it happen this year. We'll have the ultimate Kiddush, the grand Kiddush. Hashem should prepare for us in His Chabad, the ultimate Chabad, His Beit HaMikdash, His home. Gather us all. We should hear the Ten Commandments. We should hear the Torah Chadash and Miti Teitzeh. We should hear the Torah, the new Torah that Hashem is going to reveal. 14 million Jews be dancing in the streets of Yerushalayim instead of hunkering in the bomb shelters. 14 million Jews should be dancing in the streets of Yerushalayim. And all our enemies should have the ultimate downfall. And may they, everything they're plotting and planning against the Jewish people, may it only come back to hit them and let them destroy themselves. And the Jewish people will unite and dance and rejoice together. As is a famous, the Polish Hasidim say, the language in the Talmud is, when it comes to the holiday of Shavuot, Kul Alma Moide Be'ina Nami Lechem. That you need also Lechem, you also have to celebrate the holiday. It has to be a physical celebration. So they interpreted Be'inan comes from the word in Aramaic, Lashon to bayim boye, to plead, to beg, to daven to Hashem. Nami Lechem is numerical value of Haketz, the deadline. The Mashiach must come. He said this is a perfect time during these days of Shavuot. As we get closer to Shavuot, all these days is a special energy. It's a special time when they're very propitious, when the Yidden can daven, the Jewish people can daven and demand and pray and storm heaven and earth to bring Haketz, the conclusion, the final conclusion of the exile. Yo Anavi, Yo Elijah the prophet will conclude the exile, make a seam in the exile. And there's no better time. This is the time, and Hashem is giving us the Torah. This is the time, and this is the promise, and this is the energy of the giving of the Torah. That this world, heaven and earth will merge. This world will become a godly world, a Torah world, a Jewish world. The whole entire world will be transformed. And it'll be in a peaceful way, in a natural way, in a peaceful way. And this is the special time that we're living through right now. And it's very empowering, it's very uplifting, it's very challenging, it's a tremendous privilege, it's a gift that we're about to receive. And we should receive the gift, as the previous Lubavitcher Rabbi would say, we should receive the gift. With joy, we should receive this gift joyfully. We should internalize this gift. That's the whole point of the Torah, to internalize and to integrate. And may this happen, may this become true for each and every one of us, personally, individually. First and foremost, by increasing in the study of Torah. And we should do it joyfully. And Hashem should help that this Shavuos will celebrate on the Upper East Side of Yerushalayim. Not only you'll have 100,000 Jews streaming to the Kotel. Anyone here has been to Shavuos in Yerushalayim, it's amazing what happens after being up all night. Jews stream to the Kotel, over 100,000, like streams. It look like water flowing from the steps from every direction, just going into the plaza, into the front of the Kotel, davening together. Imagine 100,000 Jews standing together at dawn, davening together at the sunrise. It's just an amazing, 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 amazing experience. So instead of 100,000 Jews gathering together over the remnant of the temple, the Kotel, we're going to have 40 million Jews davening and gathering together, not the remnant, but the Beit HaMikdash. Hashem will rebuild his temple. And not only rebuild his temple, but give us the new temple, the third temple, the holiest temple, the completion and the perfection of all the previous temples combined. And may this actually happen now that we're having the missiles are actually happening, and all the terrible things are actually happening. So we need all the good things, and Mashiach also, to actually happen, not just talk about it, not just abstract or in heaven. We need it to actually happen literally. Mashiach should actually come. He should actually rebuild the third temple, and he should actually gather 40 million Jews to Yerushalayim. And all of this should materialize, actually happen. May it happen now, to us, here and now, the year 2021, 3,333 years from the giving of the Torah. Finally, we should triumph. The Torah should triumph. The Torah should win. The Jewish people should win. Godliness and holiness and truth and morality and ethics and spirituality will win and triumph. And we're going to march triumphantly together. Like one person, one heart, united, fully integrated march into the whole entire land of Israel, as promised, sworn to Hashem, by Hashem, to Avraham Avinu, the very first Jew, the very first time Hashem spoke to Avraham. And we'll have the entire Jewish people whole, every Jew born to a Jewish mother and every Jew who converts halachically, the entire whole Jewish people, wholesome, the whole entire Torah, the inner Torah, the Baal Shem Tov, and David HaMelech, and Moshe Rabbeinu, all one, the inner parts of the Torah together with the body of the Torah, all fully integrated as one. And we're going to have the complete redemption of Mashiach, whole, intact, physical, material, tangible. We can tap it with our fingers and we can touch it. And the next class will be given by Mashiach himself. And not only in Zoom, but we'll see him and hear him live. And it'll be given on the Upper East Side of Yerushalayim. Everyone have a good Shabbos and have a beautiful, beautiful Yom Tov. You have any questions, comments, thoughts, please unmute.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you very much. Amen, amen, amen.
Amen. Let us all say amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Absolutely.